Welcome to this week's episode of Ask Alexa, aka Ask Me What's Coming from LMBPN this week. We're super excited to have way more releases this week than we did last week. But remember, we were in Vegas and things were crazy. So this week we have a lot more than 2 books coming your way. So Steve, ask me what's coming next.
That was awkward.
Yeah,
Alexa, what's our first book this week?
Death and Darkness, books 6 through 10 of the Lazarus Codex series from E.A. Copen.
So if you are not familiar with this series yet, we released books 1 through 5 in the series as a single title called Death and Deception. It's a very popular series. If you have read it, you know about the main character, Lazarus Kerrigan. So this next collection takes us back to New Orleans for all the gritty action, snarky humor, and unique magic that we've come to expect from Lazarus. Alexa, what's our next book this week?
Next up, we have Return of the Witch, which is book 6 in the Witch Next Story series.
All right, I have to tell a quick story. I was in Vegas last week, as you mentioned. A lot of us were in Vegas last week, including your mother, who was brilliant on stage, by the way.
Oh.
Jamie Albright brought tears to the audience and was really encouraging to a lot of people. She has a great story to tell. Anyway, I was talking to Martha outside one of the conference rooms, and she had been in a group of urban fantasy writers, and somebody said something about Judith Barron's, and someone else said, yeah, who is Judith Barron's? And Martha's like, that's me. And it's like, it was like, you're Judith Barron's too?
That is funny.
So that's a funny story. All right. So this is a series from Judith Barron's. And book 6, so Lily and Romero are offered a deal to get them across the sea to Libya to retrieve a needed sacred relic. That is, we've come to learn magic comes with a price, and an artifact from the god of dreams is going to be no exception. If you haven't started this series yet, book 1 is One Witch Too Few, and it's been a very popular series for us. So if you haven't tried it yet, give it a go. And if you have been reading along, Return of the Witch is coming this week. Alexa, what's next?
Next up, we have The Finn Files.
From Trace Conger. And this, I'm going to give a little bit of a backstory on this. This is our first true mystery thriller publication for LMBPN. I'm super excited about this. I love Trace Conger's work. He's he's an award-winning author, and I think you guys are going to like this. There's no paranormal. It is strictly tough guy, thriller-ish type stuff. So a little bit of background on the main character, Finn Harding, who is known as Mr. Finn. He specializes in finding people who don't want to be found. He had a PI license, and it was taken away. So he begins working for the kinds of clients who don't really care whether he's licensed or not. So you can imagine maybe what those kind of clients are. And so when you're looking for bad people, and it's bad people that have hired you, bad things happen. And this is a great series. I am so proud that we're publishing this with LMBPN, and I hope you'll give it a try if it sounds even remotely interesting to you, because I know we're going to pull in a lot of mystery thriller readers, but some of our core readers, I think, are going to enjoy this book as well. Alexa, what's next?
Up next, we have The Drow Conqueror, which is book 14 in the Alison Brownstone series.
And we have more from Alison. You'll hear that when we get to the audiobook section. Alison, as you know, is a Drow Princess with no ordinary powers. So she's going off to Mongolia to rescue Mr. D's nephew. I'm obviously reading this, and things aren't adding up. The thing that gets me, it's like, seriously, how many times do the Drow have to get involved with a Brownstone, either James Brownstone or Alison Brownstone, to just know they're going to get their butts kicked?
Too many.
And that's why we read these things, to see the Brownstones kick some Drow butt. Alexa, what's next?
Up next, we have A Girl's Best Friend, which is book 3 in the Moonlight Detective series.
You know, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
And I said puppies, not diamonds.
You did, because I asked what the girl's best friend was, and because your answer was so poor, we had to postpone the release of the book. So Those of you who have been waiting for that book, you can blame Alexa for that. So
Sorry,
Taylor and Ramy are finally back in this new adventure, and that should be coming up around the end of this week. But we've also got audio. I alluded to one of the audiobooks, and we've got a batch of others that are being released by audio partners this week. Alexa, tell us about our audiobooks.
Okay, we have
Can you do it like last week when I just asked Alexa to read my audiobook and you could just start reading them?
Wouldn't that be so fun if I did that?
Yes, all right.
Time to read all these books. There's so many this week. So first up, we have A Brownstone Response, which is book 9 in the Alison Brownstone series, as we alluded to earlier. So be sure to read that for Brownstone butt kicking.
and that's a book that's narrated by Kate Rudd, and you'll hear her name again in a moment as well.
Yes, you will. So up next, we have The Triumphant Daughter, which is book 4 in the Unstoppable Liv Buffont series. And this is an exciting book. We actually had an episode of Behind the Fiction a week or 2 ago with Snarky, kind of discussing the ins and outs of some of Alison's characteristics. So wrong series of Liv Buffont's characteristics. So,
but right thing, we did have that interview. All these books that Alexa's mentioning now are coming on November 19th. So the first book, A Brownstone Response, came out on last Friday. So it's been out for a couple of days. All the rest of these are coming out on the 19th, including The Triumphant Daughter. What's next?
Up next, we have Sentinel, which is book 3 in the Vigilante Chronicles. This has been a really popular series, so you'll want to listen to it. And then we have The Oath of the Witch, which is book 4 in the School of Necessary Magic Rain Campbell series. We've also had a Behind the Fiction episode discussing. We haven't?
No.
Schools. I'm confused by all the schools.
All right, so let's talk about the schools for a minute, because this is kind of interesting. The Alison Brownstone began in the original School of Necessary Magic. Well, she came out of the Brownstone series, and then she spun off into her own series for School of Necessary Magic, and then she came out of that into the Alison Brownstone series after she graduated from the School of Necessary Magic. But the School of Necessary Magic rolls on with my niece, Rain Campbell, in the second series. So that's what this is. This is Oath of the Witch, book 4 in the School of Necessary Magic Rain Campbell series. But the cool thing is that our audio partner for this series, who is Dreamscape Audio, was also able to get the fantastic Kate Rudd, who has narrated all the Alison Brownstone books from the original School of Necessary Magic, and now she's doing the second School of Necessary Magic with Rain Campbell. And we should definitely, that's what you're saying, is we should get an episode on here with Kate Rudd.
We should get an episode with Kate Rudd, and I need her to bring a flow chart so that I can understand how all these things go. Goodness, you people are committed if you understand all these schools. And we got people going to college these days.
Oh, yeah.
Different series, but we got people in college. We have vampires in middle school. We have a lot of school. And
we do have a children's series that takes place in like elementary school as well.
All right, so we like education. Everyone go to school. And if you don't go to school, read about going to school.
Exactly.
All right, up next, we have Hunting the Broken, which is book 3 in the Caitlin Chronicles. And Steve, can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Well, I can tell you that's been a very popular series. That's from Dan Wilcox. And Dan Wilcox and Michael Anderley. It's a little bit horror-ish in tone, so it's a little different than a lot of what we do. But if you like the first 2 audiobooks, you're going to love the next 2 because they're coming, one right after another. And if you haven't tried them yet, you might want to give the series a try. It's done very well for us, and people seem to like it. Alexa, are we done?
We're done. Until next week.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next Monday.
We'll see you Monday.